Hey everyone, Professor Chad here with just a quick video that should help clear up a couple of things that are common issues on this particular assignment. Um, so hopefully this will help you out if you're struggling, and you can take solace in the fact that this will be the only one where we have this grading algorithm that is giving several of you trouble, because things in the future cases get to be a little bit more standardized and a little bit easier. This one was designed to give you some experience doing it both by hand and with QM so you can see the differences and what advantages QM offer. Okay, so let's look at the assignment. This is the case. I've loaded it up. I've got my name. It comes blank like this. So I'm going to generate my data. Come into the manual tab, and I see that I have all the stuff that I need here. The first thing I need to do is I need to calculate total fixed costs. Right. This is something that it's difficult to do without it's difficult to do the rest of the case without. So we'll have a little crash course in this. All right. It turns out that writing these things is often more difficult than I want them to be. But sometimes it's not always clear what I mean. I know what I mean, so when I write it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But sometimes when other people read it, they don't always know what I mean. So this is the total salary expense for the managers at the food stands for the entire year, including all 7 games. Okay, so we're going to have this cost, and I'm just going to lump this over here. All right. So 710,000 is my number. You should have a different one, or if it's the same because it was randomly generated, that's okay. But 710,000 is the total yearly salary expense. In the context of square footage, right, I need to figure out how much square footage costs, and I need to figure out how much square footage I'm going to use, and that's going to be the total square footage required for a single, or the total square footage cost for a single game. I'll need to take that number and multiply it by 7. So I'm going to start by saying 7 games times 8,900 square feet, right, times the square footage cost, which I think is 575, but I'm going to double check real quick. As it turns out, memory served, the square footage cost is 575 a square foot, right? And I got that out of the case file itself. So in the case file, you'll use some of the numbers from that. And this is where some of the confusion is coming in. You'll use some of the numbers from that, but if you see a different number provided here, right? So for the menu, these numbers are all different. The yearly salary expense, the total square footage required, and the number of workers required, these things are what's randomized. But things like the number of workers, the number of food stalls, the number of hours, the minimum wage, and the square footage cost, those things do not change. Those are all going to be pulled directly out of the case file. Right? So I'm sorry if there was some confusion there. Right, so what else do we have? I have 5 workers at each food stand. So I need all 5 workers. They're all going to work 8-hour shifts according to the case file. That's going to give us the number of hours at each food stand. There are 18 food stands, not 189, 18 food stands. So that gives us the total number of hours worked at each game. So I'll multiply this by the Pennsylvania minimum wage of $7.25 to get the total hourly employee cost for each game, and then again multiply by 7 to get the total cost for the hourly workers. Right, now what we did was we took a yearly figure, and then we took a square footage number and converted it to a per game cost, and then multiplied by 7 to get the yearly cost, and then took the number of hours worked multiplied by the hourly wage and multiplied that total, which was the total for each game, by 7 to get this figure, right? So as it turns out, as we take the total of that, this number represents the total fixed cost for the season. Okay, these are the fixed costs the university is going to incur. Right, now I could just transcribe this number manually, but that's a bad practice, and this is what's giving a lot of you guys difficulty because this particular assignment I built is, I forgot that it's an early iteration, so the grading algorithm is particularly sensitive in terms of rounding. So if I transcribe this number directly, it might mark it wrong even though it appears correct, because sometimes there are decimal places farther out in the cell that just aren't displayed. So to avoid that, right, and this is the thing that seems to solve most people's difficulties, is I'm going to say, rather than transcribing the number, I'm going to say, I want to say this, the value in this cell should be equal to, and I will put equal sign and then click back to manual, click the cell I want and hit enter, and that pulls the number through for me. I can now click grade assignment and it should pop up green. Okay, this is the total fixed cost for the season. There are 7 games in a season, so the next thing I'm going to want to do is divide that number by 7. And again, I want to let Excel do all the calculations for me, right? Because this number, well, it looks like $157,823.57 in my case, right? If I blow this up so you can see more decimal places, you'll see that it doesn't stop at 0.57, it continues on. Okay. If I were to just put 157,823.57 in here, it would not get marked correct because I'd be missing the 142,857, etc. Okay. That's just the way the grading algorithm is built. There we go. Okay. So if I do use a formula for it, right? Say the value in this cell divided by 7 to get this one, then the grade assignment thing will come up correct. If I write 157,823.57, right, which looks like it should be the same number, if I click grade assignment, it will pop up wrong. Okay, so not rounding will be an important component for this particular assignment. In future ones, that will not matter as much, but this is a really good practice to get into, right? Say this is divided by 7. Because what if I'd got one of these wrongs? What if I had typed this number in manually? Right? What if I'd accidentally typed 711? Right? 711,000 instead of 710, right? So say I had entered one of the numbers incorrectly, then this number would be wrong, we know. And I can click grade assignment. This one pops up as incorrect. This one pops up as correct because you did the right thing based on the wrong number. So it's designed so that if you screw this first piece up, you can still get the rest of it correct. Right? So as not to punish you from the get-go. Several of you have discovered this, that if you have something wrong in the intermediate sense, you can still get subsequent questions wrong, which does generate confusion, but it's designed so that messing one thing up early doesn't screw you over for the whole assignment. Right? So I'm sorry if that caused confusion. It was designed for your benefit. Right? Now the nice thing about this being a formula, right? This is equal to cell G17 on the manual tab. That's what this means in the formula bar. So because this is formulaic, if I come in here and fix my error and say again 710, right? This number updates here, which updates the one here, which means when I click grade assignment, boom, it fixes it for me. Right? So that is how you should be doing the assignment, is you should be linking the cells, that's what this is called, or referencing the cells throughout the entire assignment. Any calculations you should do should be in Excel and should be done with as much linking as possible. So you'll notice here, I said 7 games times the square footage usage, which was in cell B15, times 575, right? So I even linked this value. When I initially did it, I linked this value as well. And then down here, you'll see that I make use of the value here. So I'm not typing any of the numbers given to me in, because if I do, I'm likely to make a mistake, right? And catching those mistakes is difficult. So if I just use a formula by referencing the cells in this manner, it makes things a lot easier. Okay, right? And the same will go for be true going forward for the rest of this stuff. If you link this calculation of this to the values that you need, so I said it's based on the percent of revenue and the per game fixed cost. If you link these things appropriately together, right, instead of taking this number and multiplying it manually in a calculator by the thing that you need to multiply by and inputting the result here, you can let Excel do the calculations for you, and that's what's going to give you the right response based on the grading algorithm. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And for this assignment, I am going to be pedantic about it because this is a really good habit to get into. Right? Because imagine the case where you're working on something and you've got a couple of initial values, not really very many, but you do a lot of calculations with them, right? And this is a good example of that. Right? We're going to have 8 different steps, right, that involve a number of calculations here, and then a summation, and then you're going to take that value and you're going to multiply or divide, etc., etc. So you're going to do a lot with the limited information that was given to you. If you screw one of these initial numbers up, right, if like I had here, this was 711 instead of 710, if you had gotten one of these wrong and you'd done it manually, you'd have to go through and fix everything. But if you do it with the formulas, like I've shown here, so this is based on a formula on the other sheet, and then this is based on this number here, right, as opposed to putting in 1104765.00, right? Because I just say, just give me this value. Then if I make a mistake early on, fixing it just requires me to fix it in one place, and it carries through all the way to the end. Right, so it's a really great practice to get into because it saves a lot of time. It should minimize the number of errors that you encounter in the long run, and it will also give you the correct answer according to the grading algorithm, which is an important component. So hopefully that clears up a number of issues for you. So if you haven't done that with the cell linking, you should really give it a shot. You should go back through and fix it. And that should iron out all the things you've got. If you have been doing that and you still have something popping up as wrong, then you definitely want to go ahead and send me a message and say, I don't understand this, if you can't figure it out yourself, because that's where I can come in and help. Anyways, I hope that's helpful. Good luck, everyone. If you have any questions, post them to the Ask the Instructor forum on Plato, please.